Welcome to the Geek 101 podcast, retro review, Doom 2005. I guess you gotta face your demons sometime. I'm Andy Bowman, and with me today is guest and wonderfully prolific podcaster, Jordan Morris. How you doing today, Jordan?
Hey, Andy. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Good to be here.
So, we watched this movie, Doom. This was a special movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, Doom. It's been kind of top of mind for me lately because I've been playing Doom Eternal, the newest Doom game, and having like a lot of fun with it. And when you brought up watching this movie, I had already been kind of thinking in my head, wasn't there a Doom movie at some point? So yeah, it was a fun excuse to get to watch this thing that I would not have watched otherwise, and honestly probably should not have watched.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about the video game for a little bit, because
Sure.
I played Doom 2016.
Yeah.
And that was just so much fun. And I of course, played the original Doom at some point in my youth, but just what do you like about Doom Eternal? How is it different from Doom 2016, if you played 2016?
I did, yeah. So I didn't have any of the Doom games growing up. I think I've mainly played console games my whole life, and I think Doom, largely was a PC game. So I would play it at friends' houses. Like I would go over to Aaron Plotkin's house and play Doom, and we would put in the God code and just kind of mess around with it. So it was the thing I kind of knew from pop culture, but didn't have an attachment to. And then, I kept hearing from the video game press that hey, Doom 2016 is really good. It shouldn't be this good, but it's really good. Trust us. And I had played the Wolfenstein reboot and thought that was really good. So I was already okay, I can, you can reboot one of these games, or you can, make a 10th sequel to something and add some innovation. So I was kind of my mind was open because of the good Wolfenstein reboot. So, I gave 2016 a shot, and it was totally awesome. And the new one is just more and crazier, and it adds a lot of stuff. I think some people don't like the additions. There's a lot of, there's a lot of jump puzzles and, a ton of lore and, this kind of hub world. The Doom guy has his own spaceship where you can, do practice runs and, kind of unlock more armor and stuff like that. So it's these things that aren't the core shooting mechanic. There's just a lot of stuff in it, and I think most of it's pretty fun. It's just kind of a blast to play, and has a really wacky story that's hard to follow. I don't know. It's a blast. It's pure fun. It is a. There used to be a video game podcast called The Indoor Kids, hosted by Emily Gordon and Kumail Nanjiani. They don't do it anymore, but it was a great show. I was on it a couple of times, and Kumail always had this way to describe games like this. It is a video game, and Doom is really that. It is just it is video game history condensed into one kind of really crazy, frantic package. And it's really cool. It's a great game to play if you've been playing games your whole life, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Doom 2016 at least was just constant shooting, jumping around, the way you just have to keep maintaining some kind of momentum to stay alive, and the wonderful gory glory kills. That's what they call them. If you've played the original Doom games, some a new mechanic in this that kind of makes all the difference is that if you shoot an enemy enough, they get into this kind of weakened state and start flashing, and then you can kind of get up close to them and do a fatality, a Mortal Kombat fatality, and you get some health boosts because of that, or if you kill them with a chainsaw, you get some ammo boosts. They're just they're over the top, they're crazy, but they serve a function in the game too, which is kind of neat. It's part of the strategy of the game to you're not supposed to just pick things off from afar. You're supposed to like kind of get in there and mix it up, so it kind of keeps the game moving at a fast pace. They're really, really cool, and definitely when you when you encounter a new enemy, it's always fun to see what those glory kills are going to be.
Yeah. Some of them are just so insanely over the top, and just like you just kind of like laugh, and the little edgy 13-year-old in you is just pleased with that.
Yeah, I know, and I think it is a very self-consciously dark game to the point of, I think, being funny. And I think that's kind of what a lot of people missed about the Mortal Kombat games, is that like these are supposed to be kind of jokes. I mean, they're over the top on purpose. And, I don't think they're supposed to like, make you feel, hatred for your fellow man. They're supposed to make you laugh. And I think that's, and I think if you play a lot of video games, you kind of realize that these are, jokes about gory video games, and yeah, I really like them. I get a kick out of it, and they're very gross.
Yeah. Just thinking of how much fun I had with 2016. I grabbed it sometime last year. I was like, oh, this is great. This is fun. This is constant adrenaline rush, and the 3D maps are surprisingly readable. But most importantly to me, it feels very good for a first-person shooter that's on a console.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of people who don't do console first-person shooters. I've never really played PC games, so I don't really have much to compare it to. But yeah, I've maybe heard that it is a FPS that is made more for consoles than it is for PCs.
Right. Are you playing anything else other than Doom 2016? Just giving some advice for the quarantine too? Listeners?
Oh yeah, I just finished Control, which was another kind of game that won a couple of Game of the Year awards. I think Doom 2016 won a couple of Game of the Year awards. It's this kind of trippy character action game from the people who did the Max Payne games. Yeah, it's really nuts. It's kind of like in a very oh gosh, what's the Christopher Nolan movie where you can go into dreams? Inception?
Yeah, Inception.
It's kind of like it's in that world. You're in this kind of like, office that maybe exists in someone's mind, and all the, people kind of speak in riddles, and, the world is kind of like collapsing in on itself. It's really trippy. It's got some cool storytelling stuff that it does. And, it has a very cool like force power. Like, at some point you get the power to like draw things to you and then launch them back at the enemies. And you can just kind of grab anything in the game. So, mailboxes, the requisite video game exploding barrels. It's really fun to kind of like pick this stuff up with your force power and then like rocket it across the screen. It's a blast. It's a really neat game. It's cool. If you kind of like interesting game storytelling, it does some kind of cool things.
All right. Well, speaking of your requisite video game exploding barrels, let's talk about a movie that made very good use of exploding barrels by not having them at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, come on. If you're gonna do a movie with fan service, you got to have the exploding barrels in there.
Well, all the fan service is pretty much just relegated to a 1990s arcade light gun game.
Right. It's interesting. I don't know how much you want to jump around, but as far as like fan service goes, there's not a ton of it. It doesn't like, if this movie wasn't called Doom and was just called like Alien Lab Search, then like, it would be fine. And it's not really a Doom movie. I mean, that's okay. I mean, they, obviously you just kind of want to make a good movie, but like, yeah, it seems like the one, there's a couple of little nods, and one of them is, they have like, I think they call them nano walls. Like the original Doom game had like secret walls that you walked up to and walked through, and you could find loot on the other side. And this one has it's kind of sort of part of the story. Like they have a secret lab behind like an invisible wall, and they use it to like crush aliens later on. And it's weird that whoever made the movie is like, what I loved about Doom? The invisible walls. We got to get the invisible walls in there. Like, yeah, I mean, we won't have
most of the monsters, and there won't be an element where you travel to hell. But I loved those invisible walls. I think fans really want to see invisible walls. I don't know. It was such a weird choice, and they talk about it a lot.
Yeah, one of the big Easter eggs, though, in this movie is actually the name of one of the doctors is the name of the creator, Dr. Carmack.
Oh, right. Yeah, but I noticed there's not a Romero character. John Romero does not get a shout out. Maybe that I caught. I don't know if there's...
I definitely didn't see any John Romero. I wonder if maybe he didn't approve of the movie.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. It's like how, you couldn't mention Alan Moore in Watchmen, it's because he's the kind of cranky one who didn't sign off. For good reason. The movie is very bad, but it does seem weird that Doom is associated with Romero and Carmack, and you have a Carmack in the movie, but not a Romero. Very interesting.
So the movie opens up with dark hallways and nebulous things happening, like CGI just kind of rushing around and maybe killing people, maybe not.
A lot of hallways in this movie. I mean, obviously, like the game has a lot of hallways, so I guess that's something else that the filmmaker took away from playing the game is people like the invisible walls and the hallways.
And it's one of those things where I don't know if it was just a budget issue that they just had to keep using, like the same 3 hallways, or if it actually was a callback to the probably Doom 3 would be what they were trying to call back to at that point.
Yeah, I guess I looked into like the history of Doom a little bit when I started playing the new one, and I did not play Doom 3, but yeah, from what I understand, it was like a more survival horror kind of moody type game. It was a little less run and gun and a little more kind of exploration and jump scares and kind of things you maybe more associate with like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I never really touched it either, but the one of the big things was you couldn't have the flashlight and the gun at the same time.
Okay, sure. So you had to, right. So that kind of changed how you were either seeing something or you were shooting it.
Yeah. But we see, a big military outfit run by The Rock, whose name in this movie is Sarge.
Right, yeah.
Which is just such a great name, and it's got your prerequisite ragtag group of minorities and a creepy, maybe sexual predator.
Yeah, I think we have kind of a creep character that displays a little poorly aged transphobia off the top.
I had blocked that out of my head.
Yeah, there's a little bit of ickiness. I mean, they have a guy. They have a character who's supposed to be like the creep, and he kind of they lay that out in a way that it's very icky now, but I'm sure was also very icky at the time. So of this movie's crimes, we can go ahead and add a little casual sexism and transphobia onto the list.
Well. And that's one of the things about this movie. No matter when you think this movie was made, it looks like it was made 10 years before that.
Yeah, I know. 2005. I'm sure it even looked bad for the time. And I think you were kind of you hit on something with like, by mentioning budget constraints. It just seems like they're like, you have to make a Doom movie. It can only cost $20 million. 5 of that's going to The Rock. So, do what you can. You got 2 monsters, we're giving you 2 monster suits. So just, see if you can bang out 90 minutes. Yeah.
The funny part is though, this movie, as cringy as the, early transphobia and sexism is, it's still, leaps and bounds ahead of, Shane Black's Predator from last year.
Oh yeah, that was bad. What a heartbreaker that was. You're like, hey, Shane Black's making a Predator movie, and Keegan-Michael Key's gonna be in it. Yeah. And boy, I know. I was really disappointed with that. I really love the Predator movies in general, but that's a shame that one stank so hard.
And one of the podcast's favorite actors, period, Carl Urban, who is we call him a geek royalty. Like he's just if there's something sci-fi, Carl Urban is probably down to be involved with it. It seems like.
Yeah, he's a good, reliable, like not famous guy, but always good and stuff. Seems to kind of pick cool projects. Never really got famous. I liked him in the Amazon The Boys series.
Yeah, I did too. And he was in J.J. Abrams' little like live action iRobot-esque Fox show.
I don't think I've seen that.
Name, Almost Human. He was Chronicles of Riddick. He was in Thor Ragnarok. He was Judge Dredd in Dredd.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Carl, I will say that in this, both he and, oh gosh, I forget the name of the female lead. I've liked her in other things. But they both are doing really iffy American accents. Neither of them are great at it. I'm trying to think if Carl Urban's been convincingly American in other things since this, but boy, their American accents are bad.
Maybe Star Trek?
Oh yeah, maybe.
I'm just looking at this like huge. I even forgot that Carl Urban was in the live action Hercules show and the Xena show.
Yeah, he is one of those kinds of actors, just like journeyman, down for whatever.
Yeah. But his name, and I just, this is such a beautiful, you can just hear the screenwriters chuckling to themselves when they came up with his name. It's Ben Reaper Grimm. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. Everybody, all of the soldiers, we get introduced to them via their code names when they're like turning on their weapons, but also just a weird, like bad filmmaking thing. You hear them saying their names and grabbing their weapons, but they don't show you their faces. So you're like, okay, I know that there's a Reaper out there. I know that someone is the kid, but they're like not showing you them. I don't know. So, I mean, not that there were a ton of like memorable characters in this, but yeah, it was just kind of hard to keep everybody straight. I'm like, who are they talking about? Just because we never got a clear introduction to anybody.
Right. And I mean, the only ones that really mattered were Carl Urban, Dwayne Johnson, maybe Duke. He was around for a little bit, but
yeah, there's Mac. They make that the Mac has like kind of a long Japanese name, and there's like, we'll just call you Mac.
Right. Played by a Chinese actor, which was that's a fun little bit of mid-aughts racism. We'll just get an Asian person.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because so Carl Urban and I looked up the name. Rosamund Pike is the like female lead of this, who I've seen be good in other things. I've liked her. She's she usually gets kind of the like thankless woman role in the action movie. She's good in Jack Reacher, I thought. But yeah, her and Carl Urban are both doing just these weird American accents at each other, and it's like, Can they just be where they're from? I mean, or can Carl Urban could do British? Let's let them both be British. I don't know. It bugged me.
Well, and another level here is like they were like supposedly born on Mars.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they were. They were born on the Mars. So right, they can sound like fucking whatever. Like, don't make them have to sound like they're from Maine.
Right. The beautiful line immediately where she's just, "What did our parents teach us?" And pulls up the computer and shows some chromosomes. And just like, oh, their parents just taught them to like look at chromosome maps.
Right. They come from like a science family. And I guess it's like a disappointment that Carl Urban got into the military. I thought there was one kind of funny action movie line in this, kind of in this conversation. She says something like, you should be looking into a microscope instead of a sniper scope.
Yes, I wrote that down. That is such a beautifully hilarious, bad, and just perfect line for this movie.
Yeah, I thought the movie, like if the movie kind of leaned into that more and just had more kind of like action movie cheese to it, it might have been a little more fun than it was.
Yeah, I mean, they really should have made some kind of joke about the fact that the Rock enters the gun armory using an arm.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a lot of hand scanning that goes on in this. And The Rock uses like a severed hand to get into a room. Yeah, sure. I know there's an armory pun right there.
Yeah. Director, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, I think he's Polish. If my kind of mid-movie IMDbing was, if I'm remembering my mid-movie IMDbing, I think he's from Polish and has a very Polish-sounding name.
Yeah. You should have gotten Jordan here to punch up the script for you.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's. There's no reason that these things shouldn't be kind of funny or have some good gags in them. I mean, I think getting a bunch of comedy writers together to punch up a script is Hollywood protocol. So yeah, it's weird that these can't even have funny lines in them. Anyway.
Yeah. I'm just there's so much wrong early on. We're teased the BFG, which even my wife knew as a big Doom staple.
Yeah, that's one of the most 1-to-1 game to movie things in the movie is that The Rock gets a gun called the BFG, the big fucking gun. That doesn't really. It feels like they added it afterwards. It feels like they're like, oh, we need one more game Easter egg in here. Let's have him get the BFG. He shoots it twice. It's this kind of big laser blast thing. Maybe that's all the CGI money they had for him to fire it twice, but it doesn't really do anything in the movie.
Right. And within the movie, there's a few interesting set designs where the hallways are actually they're almost the pixelated bland hallways of the first Doom, which I kind of appreciated. That was a nice little callback. Everything in this on this Mars base is very sterile, and I want to believe it was a purposeful callback to the games and not just a budgetary restraint using the discarded Aliens sets.
Yeah, there's some alien similarities. There's some kind of random dangling chains. There's a lot of pipes with steam in them. If you need to distract an alien, you can always point a steam pipe at it.
I mean, this movie, at least for the first 90 minutes, just really wants to be an Aliens ripoff.
Boy, yeah, it sure does. And it does feel like not a choice, but it does feel like a budgetary constraint. It's like, we can't show the monster yet. Let's just have them wandering around in hallways, and then occasionally there'll be a fake scare. There's a dog fake scare. There's a monkey fake scare. There's a point where a guy gets pulled underwater and you think something's got him, but he's like, I stepped in a hole. It's so much dumb fake bullshit until the aliens actually get there. That when they do, you're like, I don't, good. They should have been here earlier.
Yeah. And man, this movie is just, as I was watching this, I was like, man, this is going to be difficult to talk about because there's not much here.
Yeah, it's very confusing too. It's you don't really know where they're going or why. Their objectives aren't laid out good.
Yeah, and ultimately, this movie is one of these movies that's not it's not aggressively bad. It just feels lazy.
Yeah, I know. It just feels like a Sci-Fi Channel original or something like that. It's tough. It's definitely not, It's like the Fast and the Furious movies are they're very dopey, but they're a ton of fun, and it feels like, they're like that on purpose. It feels like there's some craft going on. There's some cool stuff. But yeah, with this, it's just all right, we've got The Rock for a month. We've got 2 monster suits, try and cobble something together. It feels like, a Roger Corman, 60s movie where they told him, you have a castle and a gorilla, go make a movie,
Yeah, and this is very clearly
I'm not comparing The Rock to a gorilla. I think he's very, very talented. I guess maybe in my analogy, the random alien suit is the gorilla suit.
Right. Doug Jones is the gorilla.
Yeah.
Famous for being a fishman who fucks.
Right. Yeah. Good old Doug Jones, The Shape of Water. A great performance.
Yeah. And this is
Doug Jones the aliens in these?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Doug Jones, he gets a weird line of work. Just a weird amount of work. He's great at just being a tall, creepy, skinny guy.
Yeah, I know. I think he does a lot of Doug Jones is the guy. He's like under all the monster makeup usually. He's in all the Guillermo del Toro movies and yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, he is a unique and effective performer.
Yeah, and oh man, I just love that each of these members of this motley crew called the RRTS, like Rapid Response Tactical Squad, each one clearly has some kind of story. Like they were clearly like, oh yeah, we're gonna make these characters deep and let the actors kind of talk about them, and that was all seems to have just been cut out. There was the religious one, Goat.
Right, yeah, guys right, the prerequisite religious guy on the team. His name is Goat, which is strange. Seems like they would call him Reverend or Pastor or, Gabriel, the avenging. I don't know. But his name is Goat. Who cares? And yeah, I know none of their like character ticks really amount to anything. The kid is like he does drugs at one point, and you think maybe that's going to enter into it. Maybe the drugs will give him make him immune to mutating, or they'll help him fight. But no, he's just on drugs, and the Rock tells him not to do drugs, and then shoots him eventually. It does seem like they just like arbitrarily tacked on character ticks to these people that don't affect the story.
Interestingly, the only one who does not have a name is Portman, the sexual predator.
Oh, is his name his name?
Yeah. His character name is just Portman, Dean Portman.
Yeah.
And but interestingly, as just kind of Wikipediaing, the same year he got to play the murderer of Batman's parents in Batman Begins.
Okay.
Joe Chill, and
right.
He also played the Night King in Game of Thrones.
Oh, interesting. Well, this guy has had an interesting career. He's not noticeably bad in the movie. I mean, I think the character is obviously written in a pretty icky kind of way, but the guy he's having fun. He seems to be kind of adding a little camp energy to his performance.
Right. And because of him, I just discovered this movie as being made. Tremors, Island Fury.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's a lot of weird Tremors sequels.
Yeah. Man, it's just fascinating to me. Like, can you imagine being like, oh, I just got a role in the new Batman movie. I get to be the guy who killed his parents. My career's looking up.
Right.
Doom. Oh, man, I'm just kind of looking through there's just so little to talk about in this movie until eventually Carl Urban gets shot by his own bullet.
Right.
Which that almost seems like maybe part of his like contract was that he couldn't get attacked, right? Like the rumor is that the reason why Vin Diesel and The Rock will never actually fight to the death or to defeat in the Fast and Furious is that both of them have in their contracts they can't lose a fight.
Right. Yeah.
But he's shot with his own bullet, which gets repelled off the nano wall.
Yeah, that nano wall that all the fans can't wait to see. Oh, it's the wall from the game. Cool.
Yeah. Wall Chan.
Right. Yeah.
The fan favorite. And we get to see him get injected with some kind of Captain America super soldier serum.
Yeah, chromosome 24. I don't know if that's a reference to the game or not.
I don't. I have no idea either. All I can say is, it either unlocks superhuman strength or it unlocks the hidden evil in the mind.
Right. Yeah. There's a kind of a late reveal that the monsters only attack evil people. I don't know. It was very confusing. But yeah, there's a really quick tossed off, little bit of exposition to where like, oh, there's 10% of the human mind that we don't know anything about, and maybe that's where the soul lives. And then I guess if you get this injection of this chromosome 24, if you are innately evil, it'll turn you evil.
and give you superpowers. And if you're good, it won't do anything to you emotionally, but it will give you superpowers. So yeah, I guess it heightens the evil in you if you're innately evil. I don't know. It's very confusing, very dumb. But yeah, I mean, but it kind of leads to kind of some of the first cool stuff in the movie. A movie that is, you know, kind of painfully lacking in cool stuff. It kind of sort of picks up toward the end once he gets this, you know, soul chromosome injection.
Right. The soul chromosome allows him to go back and to basically play like Time Cop or any other light gun arcade game.
Yeah.
And that's like the one really, really interesting segment that everyone I talk to about this movie who's seen it remembers this segment.
Right. Yeah, it kind of takes on the perspective of the game, and it's first person. You just kind of see Carl Urban's gun, you know, hovering in front of him, and he kind of like goes back down all the halls, like, you know, capping zombies.
Yeah, and then he just fights the Rock to the death, and movie's over.
Yeah, I guess that is also made something interesting that's worth talking about as far as this movie goes, is that The Rock is the bad guy. And I guess this is 2005 before he became the world's most famous person. But yeah, the fact that he was a bad guy was a genuine surprise to me, just because I assumed that The Rock would never play a bad guy. But I guess this was at a point in his career when, you know, maybe he wasn't, you know, just playing the hero. I don't know. It was a surprise to me. And I know that it wasn't necessarily a surprise because the movie wanted it to be, but because I am familiar with The Rock's career. So I don't know. That was kind of a nice little bit of, you know, shaking me out of my malaise for a second. And it's like, oh, The Rock's a bad guy. I don't know. It was interesting.
Right. Interestingly, this might actually be the one of the first movies where he is billed as Dwayne Johnson and not The Rock.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Meaning that WWE did not have to get a producer credit.
Oh, huh.
Yeah,
he's you know, you can kind of, and you know, and he's fun to watch. He always is. So yeah, you can kind of see some of that like star potential kind of peeking out over the material.
Yeah. It's not jumping out over the material, but it is there. You like him on screen more than anyone else.
And yeah, it is kind of like fun to see him and Carl Urban, you know, go toe to toe, because they're both, you know, they're both good, fun to watch actors. So yeah, there's some like there's a fun factor there, I think.
Yeah, but ultimately, like, this movie was just such a nothing movie. I was disappointed. I remembered it being hilariously bad in moments, and people have told me multiple times that it's hilariously bad in moments, but no, this just feels like a you know, an Aliens ripoff that they kind of dusted off from the early or the late 80s and decided to just put the Doom title on it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and with how little the, you know, stuff like the BFG enters into the plot, I would not be surprised if someone's like, oh, we have this very generic, you know, Marines versus Aliens movie. You know, we can just add in a few Easter eggs and call it Doom. Yeah, that I would not be surprised if that was the case.
All right. So Jordan, if you had to rate this movie on a scale from F to A+, F minus to A+,
okay,
what would you give this movie?
I would say, you know, maybe, you know, let's say D plus. Yeah, yeah, let's say D plus. It's, you know, yeah, I think that's what it deserves. I have I think we've laid out a case for why this is a D plus movie. Maybe, you know, maybe C minus if you kind of add in the, you know, sort of kind of fun first person scene and, you know, a couple of, you know, maybe a couple of cool monster moments. So yeah, let's say D plus, C minus if we're being generous.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with you there. This is just a D plus movie. I was really hoping. I was like, oh yeah, Jordan, he's a really funny guy. This is gonna be great. We're gonna have some fun ragging on a movie, and then it's just such a it's so much of it is just by the numbers and bland that there's not like there's nothing to really rag on.
I know. You mean it's so nebulous what makes a fun bad movie and what makes just a boring bad movie, and I think this is kind of just boring bad. And I was even a little excited because I rented it on Amazon, and there's some, there were some choices, and there's one, I rented the unrated version. So I'm like, maybe this will have some
boobs.
Yeah, there's a couple of, but like corpses, like just boobs on corpses. It's not even like a fun, shower scene or something. So there's no like, there's no fun gore. There's no, over the top stuff that, maybe you would hope, maybe a more self-conscious filmmaker would bring to it. So yeah, it's kind of just bland and generic and a little confusing.
Right. The only thing that it really succeeds in doing is making you think that the sexual predator character is a sexual predator by staring at a woman who's changing and vulnerable.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what that's supposed to be. If that's supposed to be, it seems like maybe it was supposed to be funny, but yeah, all of the guy's ickiness really is gross and unpleasant. So yeah, I mean, he gets killed, and I guess that's kind of fun. But I think that guy's grossness was not what they intended. It just came off like that because it was gross.
Also, when he's getting killed on the toilet, or in the bathroom, the one guy in a wheelchair is watching us, kind of laughing at him dying.
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe it was intentional. Maybe they're trying to create the most hateable character possible. So when he dies, it's fun. Yeah, it was weird. I don't think the movie knew what it was doing at all.
Well, my theory is that it was supposed to come off like he's having a really, really bad shit.
Okay.
And
interesting.
Pinky is
I did not get that at
like
all.
Laughing.
Like this guy, look at it. He's constipated. I love watching a constipated person.
Yeah. But there's just so much nothing to talk about here, and I'm disappointed. I'm sorry that you had to watch this movie.
No, I was curious about it. Definitely, like I'm immersed in the world of Doom right now because I'm playing the game. So it was interesting to like look back at the movie. But yeah, and especially now, it's like it does seem like people have kind of started to crack video game based entertainment, I didn't see it, but people say the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying the Castlevania Netflix series. So yeah, it's like this stuff can be done, and there's no reason a Doom movie can't be a lot of fun. But this just isn't it.
Well, you're in luck. There was a sequel that just came out.
Oh right, yeah, I mean, is the same. Do you know anything about it? Same director is.
It's just called.
Can't imagine The Rock makes an appearance.
No. It is called Doom Annihilation. It is streaming on Netflix, so you don't have to rent it.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet. I've just been told it's just a on par with like the fourth Starship Troopers movie.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure some company just has the rights to the name, and they're like, we can shit out another one of these and time it to when the new game comes out, and people will accidentally click on it. So yeah, I would not be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah. I'm just taking a look at it. I watched a trailer for it, and I was like, it was one of those things where like, are they really making a Doom sequel? Yeah, they certainly are. There's no actors I recognize in here, and the CGI is even worse than the original movie.
Yeah, that's so funny. I'm gonna take a peek at the IMDb page myself. That's so funny. I think the second Mortal Kombat movie is called Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
It is.
That's a funny little thing that would be maybe cute if it was intentional, but probably wasn't. It was probably just laziness.
Yeah. I'm looking through. This director also did the sequel to the SWAT movie.
Yeah, this guy's name, according to IMDb, is Tony Giglio. Giglio. And yeah, he seems to do a lot of direct-to-DVD sequels, or direct-to-streaming sequels now, I guess.
Well, he also wrote Death Race 2, Death Race 3 Inferno, Death Race Beyond Anarchy.
All right, so he works.
Yeah, you know, good for him. He was a production assistant in Escape from LA, so.
Oh, hey, well, that's good. So he got to work at the hands of the master John Carpenter.
That's right. All right, man. I really don't think there's anything really left to talk about with this movie. It was just kind of a nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting how jacked The Rock is now versus him in this movie. I mean, obviously he's jacked in this movie, but like compared to him, he looks tiny. He looks like a little stinker version of The Rock. I think just because we demand that our action heroes be so much buffer now than they were in 2005.
Well, back then he was called the Pebble.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He definitely is. Yeah, it is so interesting to look at him from 2005 versus now. It's, versus whatever he looked like in Hobbs and Shaw. It's, the hunk, the action hunk, arms race is, in full effect.
It was believable that, Carl Urban could fight him in this movie. If he was going to be fighting today, it just would not be believable.
I know, yeah, I'm sure he dwarfs Carl Urban now. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, maybe we probably won't get the Doom 2005 proper sequel that we want. The rematch between Carl Urban and The Rock. That's right, will probably never come to pass.
With soul juice being added to both of them for extra.
Right, yeah, for extra soul powers.
Yeah. All right, man. Do you have any like pluggables you want to plug? I know you have plenty of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no, I do a podcast called Jordan Jesse Go. It's just kind of a goofy chat podcast. We have cool guests from the worlds of entertainment and comedy. We've had Maria Bamford recently, Amy Mann, John Hodgman coming up on a future episode. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's just some goofy, 90 minutes of goofy bullshit, and yeah, tune in if you need some more of that in your podcast schedule. It's called Jordan Jesse Go, and it's at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. Also, Jordan, you're a writer on a very special. I really loved this serialized show you did called Bubble. Can you maybe give a pitch to the listeners, because I've definitely told them about it before, but I'd like to.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this was kind of a little experiment in scripted podcasting that we did a couple years back. It's called Bubble. It's kind of a little TV show for your ears. I think the elevator pitch would be Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but in Brooklyn or in Silver Lake, or wherever your hipster enclave is in your city. Yeah, it's a kind of a sci-fi comedy. It's got a lot of cool performers. Allison Becker from Parks and Rec, Keith Powell from 30 Rock, Micah Mitchell from Netflix Love and the Doughboys podcast. A lot of cool guest stars. John Hodgman I mentioned before. Judy Greer's in there. Martin Starr from Silicon Valley. Yeah, a lot of cool people came in and did some great voice work. And yeah, I think if you like sci-fi stuff with jokes, that was kind of the idea. It's about hipsters kind of fighting monsters under this kind of bubble dome. And yeah, there's 8 episodes of that. That's also at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, we hope to have we have some cool news about that series that it should be coming out soon. So yeah, if you check out all the kind of Max Fun adjacent social media, you can get that announcement when it comes.
All right. And as far as me, you can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Hebrews Pale Ale. You can follow the Geek 101 podcast at Geek 101 Podcast. You can send us email, rate, review, subscribe, whatever whatever it is that your platform of choice prefers you to do, please do that for us. And that's all we have for today. Class is dismissed. All right. Thank you.